Hi, good evening. This is Citi TV. My name is Nathan Quao. Welcome to The Verdict, our special look at last night's GFA presidential debate, which took place at the College of Physicians and Surgeons here in Accra. 5 of the 6 aspirants were there. They were involved in a debate that lasted about 2 or so hours, answering different questions, looking at different main pillars of Ghana football. So tonight, in about the next hour, we'll be dissecting that debate, dissecting performances, find out who won, who lost, who impressed, and who flopped, and possibly maybe get an inkling as to who could become the next GFA president come Friday at that same venue when the presidential elections are held. My name is Nathan Quao. I'll be introducing my guests in a bit, but sending your thoughts and comments on the number 0550-585-832, 0550-585-832. So the guys are here. Fenton Tahiru of the Citi Sports desk is here.
Aye.
And Jerome Autry. I don't know how to describe Jerome. Let's say Jerome is a football analyst. Jerome knows his local football. I'll be telling you more about where Jerome has been and where he's now. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
This should be good. Jerome, let me start off with you. Just quick thoughts on the entire event, the debate from start to finish, before we get into the specifics.
I think it was good. The fact that we had 5 candidates on one platform sharing ideas, talking about what they will do if they are given the chance to lead Ghana football. I look at it within the context that some years ago, even challenging whoever was in charge of our football was going to be a big deal. Okay. I mean, you would not have the chance to even think of having him or others on one platform to debate. I mean, someone would say, okay, there was, with this particular one, we didn't have, we don't have a president.
An incumbent.
Yes, an incumbent. And so what is the point about not having it some time back? I think the mere fact that the space was open for people to come and share with the public, tell them what they would do to save the image of our game was good. I've heard people say that, look, these candidates are going to draw votes from 120 people. Why not allow them to focus on these 120 people instead of putting them in one place to speak to the whole nation or to the whole world? And my answer to them is this. In as much as it is 120 people that will be voting to decide who leads Ghana football, after the election, whatever we're going to do with our football won't be limited to those who will vote or to the 120 people. It will be to the whole of Ghana and even beyond. Okay. So for me, it was important to have these people sit with the whole of the country to explain their policies, their plans, whatever, to them, and also to really tell us what it is with our game that they want to change and how they will change it. As to whether they met expectations, that's another thing. But the mere fact that the opportunity was given for people to come and express themselves, for me, was a good thing.
Thanks. Your thoughts? What did you make of the debate?
Listen, I think Jerome does make an important point about the fact that the exercise was necessary. Okay. It's new. It's something that's never been done before. And I think democratically, yes, it does make a lot of sense that you have that many people on the same platform trying to convince, and that's the harder job, trying to convince people who will not be voting. You know, so I think on that score, that was quite impressive because all of those people have probably never been on platforms like that on national television, you know, speaking to the entire Ghanaian populace, because that exercise is very similar to the presidential debate itself that we do ahead of every general election to elect a president for Ghana. So you could tell there were a few jitters here and there with regard to some of the candidates. So you could clearly tell they were nervous. But I think that overall, it gave us an impression of the sort of people that we would have leading our football. It doesn't matter who wins, but I think that a lot of the campaigning has been restricted to the 120 people that Jerome talked about.
The delegates.
You know, the delegates. They've been visiting them, traveling all around the country. This was the first time for Ghanaians themselves to really get to know properly who these people were, what their ideas were, where their interests lie in trying to govern Ghana football, who had the brightest ideas and who had the most practical ideas. So I think it was important for Ghanaians to get to really know these people in person, their policies, their ideas, their articulation, and the sort of confidence with which they approach some of these things. Because sometimes you can tell a whole lot by a person's demeanor. Okay. And I think that that debate gave us that and so much more.
All right. So 5 of the 6 candidates, they were present at the place. George Ankoma Mensah, Amanda Clinton, Fred Papu, Nanaya Amponsa, and then Kurt Eyesukweku. The 6th candidate, the most obvious absentee, George Kwesi, he was out of the country to handle some business, so he wasn't going to be available for that. But before I get more thoughts from the guys, let's just see the opening speeches from the candidates. They were allowed a few minutes to tell us what their general vision was and all of that before they got into the specifics of answering questions. So let's get a feel of their opening speeches, and then we'll zoom into the specifics of the questions they were asked and their plans for Ghana football.
To unify the GFA means to unify from within the GFA, but especially to unify outside the GFA in terms of the public, the stakeholders, and the investors, because the GFA cannot exist in isolation, and this is a crisis that needs to have at least 4 to 8 years. So ultimately, the person that is selected must be known to the public, considered of good reputation, and can foster a sense of confidence to international and local stakeholders, which is what I say I can bring.
This event is an extremely important lifeline that the Ghana Football Association has been given. After years of actions and inactions that culminated in our football going to the lowest level ever imaginable, to the extent that no one in football is proud to be associated or identified as one in football. But all is not lost. We have a very unique second opportunity. We started from the 5th of September with the promulgation of new body of statutes and regulations. And I have offered myself to be a very integral part of this process. My reasons and my motivations are twofold. My message and the messenger, that is Fred Papu. My message is simple. We have to revive Ghana football. We must redeem it, we must restore it, we must repair it, and then we must revive it to a level that we'll all be very proud of. Everyone can say a lot of things by way of what we will do. But fortunately, I have myself to back it.
And my principles for running Ghana football, or my vision, is based on 3 cardinal points. First and foremost, to restore the integrity of the sport, to develop grassroots football, and to commercialize the sport, especially our league, on which we will build the superstructure of the Black Stars. The integrity of every sport lies in the uncertainty of results. That is going to watch Accra Great Olympics versus House of Folk and not knowing what is going to happen. Recently, our sport was bedeviled with a lot of integrity issues where referees carried results from home to the venues, where there was a lot of hooliganism, and therefore referees were scared for their lives and could not adjudicate properly.
I would want to share in Alan Kay's view that to predict the future, we have to create the future. How do we create a company that wins the hearts and souls of not only the direct consumers, which are all the key stakeholders here in Garden and beyond, but also the corporate world? How do we create an industry that ignites passion and creates wealth for not only Kertu Kraku, but everybody here guarded? Ladies and gentlemen, today we have an amazing opportunity to speak the truth and to elect quality leaders who would ensure and protect all our investment.
As you know, the theme of my manifesto is football for all. Now, football for all for several reasons. Now, we know that football has become a multi-billion dollar industry in this world. Now, those of us who are in football, now how do we get a part of this global bread? which is being shared. Now, we have football as the same product being played all over the world. We have not taken advantage of whatever is in us.
So there you hear the aspirants. They're giving their initial speeches before they went into the main meat of the debate. And that's where we'll start off. Guys, let's talk a bit about FIFA funds. It's one of the things that got a lot of people talking after the Anash documentary. What happens to the money that comes in? What happens to what kind of support we get from FIFA and all of that? Before we hear from the aspirants, Jerome, what did you take from their submissions? And did you think that they had a good understanding as to what they would do to solve that particular problem?
I think Ket and maybe Papo made mention of it. I heard Ket talk about the fact that there are FIFA funds that can be assessed. If, for instance, we have the right plans in place to take care of women's football. I mean, FIFA has funds enough to give to any country or any national association that is ready to do what would change the state of women's football in that national association. And then Papo, I remember, also spoke about what the previous FIFA funds were used for concerning, is it a Pram facility? And the impression I got was that, particularly from Ket's submission, what I got was that it's as if we have some gold mine somewhere. All we need to do is to get to do the right things, go to FIFA, put a paper before them and say, guys, this is what we've been doing back home. We need funds to get things done the right way. And from the submission of Ket, it was clear to me that we have not been doing such things.
Okay.
And for that reason, that money is sitting there. You need to convince FIFA that you are doing something, and so they must come in with those funds. Okay. And that is what he said. If he's given the chance to run our football, he will be taking steps to address.
Did you get that impression that the aspirants knew exactly what we were missing in terms of the FIFA funds and how we could bridge the gap or how we could get support to push the game forward?
I mean, I got the impression that there were ideas. Kurt mentioned the fact that we needed to improve our governance structure if we wanted to access the money, which is correct. Because, listen, and it's not just Ghana. If you look at the FIFA Forward program, which came into being in 2016, when Gianni Infantino came in, that FIFA Forward program replaced the goal projects, which were under Sepp Blatter. Under the goal project...
And just a reminder that the FA headquarters was a consequence of the FIFA goal project, and then Pram as well.
Had two projects there from goal 2 and goal 3, I think. And the FA actually had an adjoining structure that was also a beneficiary of, I think, the FIFA, the goal project 4. So all of those things, that money has been accessed before. But ever since Infantino came into office with very improved governance structures at the FIFA level, they've ensured that while the FIFA Forward funds have increased over the years, every cycle now, every association is entitled to not less than $6 million for a cycle, 4-year period. Okay. Now, this money can only be accessed after successful and satisfactory project appraisals. So you need to demonstrate clearly that you have the capacity to use the money judiciously, and when a particular tranche has been released to you, you need to show to FIFA that this is what you've used this money for. And then FIFA will send officials to come and appraise those projects before they release the next tranche. As we speak, more than 50% of African countries have not been able to access the FIFA fund, Ghana included. Okay. So in the last cycle, Ghana has had $6 million lying with FIFA that we cannot access because we have nothing to show. We can't prove to FIFA that we're doing something with the money. We can't prove to FIFA that we have a plan. And this is where Papo's submission comes in. Everybody talks about what we can do with the FIFA money and all of those things. And Ket talked about how we can access the money. But nobody mentioned the most crucial thing, which was what Papo did, in my opinion, that it's a massive mistake that we've always done, always sitting down and waiting for the money to come before we can decide what we want to use the money for. Because everybody says, we'll use the FIFA money for women's football, we'll use it for this, we'll use it for that. Hapo says, it is important for the FA to show proof, to have a plan, that this is what we want to use the FIFA money for. If you want to use it to improve infrastructure, you have to have an engineer actually come and put together documents, site plans, whatever, estimate, all of those things, prove it to FIFA that this is what you intend to use with the money. And then when they will send their own person to come in and appraise those projects and look at that, look at them. And when they are satisfied, the money can be released. So it's important for us to have a plan on how to use the money before we think about actually accessing the money.
Okay, so let's hear from Amanda Clinton. She gave a very interesting take on accessing FIFA funds. And then after that, we'll hear what the aspirants have got to say on dealing with corruption. It's the next leg of our review right here on Citi TV.
Unless I stand corrected, I think I'm still the only aspirant to date that says in every media interview that the press can hold me to account to this. But, you know, should I be the next FA president this year, it's Friday, I would make sure that I publish on the FA's website not only every new fund that comes in, but like, for instance, the drawdown. So if, for instance, you have a female fund or women's fund and FIFA gave 2 million just because it's going to the women, every other female club can have a look at how much somebody else got and the breakdown. Because it's amazing to me how people really think that the FA doesn't have any money. But on the books, if millions is coming in a way, you really do kind of have money, but it's just about being more accountable and like monthly updates on the website and the media being involved in terms of holding the ExCo and that president to account about that money. So I really think it's important because at the end of the day, the reason why we're all here and we're doing this is, you know, it's not your money. You know, it belongs to the GFA, which in turn belongs to the clubs. So managing it is not an issue, and publishing how you spend the money should not be an issue.
First of all, is to ensure that there's full compliance to the club licensing system, where financials of clubs should be audited and same supplied to the FA. We will set up an internal compliance department to ensure that we all behave well, a strict auditing system. Already we've agreed at Congress that the FA will be audited by one of the top 4 auditing firms in the country. Thank you.
I think about 90% of what we saw in the number 12 had to do with referee. I am going to propose to the executive committee to abolish that referee's appointment committee system, where an individual determines which referee goes where. And then it creates manipulators within our system who are fondly called so. We need to have a balloting system or a software that distributes referees to games, rather than individuals determining where a referee goes.
Unfortunately, the statutes of 5th September 2019 are very clear with a lot of provisions in terms of auditing, internal audit arrangements, compliance arrangements, transparency, openness, and the rest. These are all factors or measures that can be put in place to address and then push corruption out of our game, even if it's just perception. Another thing that I've spoken about in my manifesto is to open the FA up for public scrutiny through interactions with the media, interactions with the public on a biannual basis, having a functional social media hub where we would have a lot of things going on by way of engagements with the media and the general public to bring up issues affecting corruption. And then we would have a set of code of conduct, not just for players and referees, but even for FA officials. Say that if you fall foul of the law, there will be very clear sanctions in there. And these are some of the things that will make public and open, so that the watching public will be able to point out to us that, look, there's an infraction here and there. What are you doing about it? So openness and transparency will be part of the hallmark of my decision, because the lack of that.
So there you heard some of the candidates. They're giving their take on how they will handle corruption, accessing FIFA funds and other things. It's the biggest thing that has hampered the image of the Ghana Football Association? Corruption or the perceived presence of it in that place? Well, okay, fine. After number 12, I think it's more crystallized, really.
Yes.
Fine, so what did you make of the responses and the proposals that these candidates gave in terms of dealing with corruption and making sure that the FA's image is clean enough to attract more friends?
I mean, I think that if you look at all the areas that the candidates spoke about, it was the one area that I was least impressed about.
Why?
You know, because you had them. Every single one of them spoke about auditing accounts.
Well, yeah.
But the truth of the matter is
code of ethics.
Yeah, but the truth of the matter is that the FA account is always being audited. They've always had an external auditor.
Okay.
And yet these things continued. These things were existent, which were later proven by Anna. So clearly it is not the external auditing that is needed to prevent the corruption, because that existed in the past, and yet we had what we had. So the dwelling on just getting external auditors in alone and opening the FA up to public scrutiny, I don't think that is enough in dealing with the corruption. The root of the problem in corruption, really, in my opinion, anywhere in the world, it's attitudinal.
Okay.
So you look at the football people. Everybody goes into football looking to make money.
Okay.
It's a business. Everybody on that podium recognize that football is a business. Yeah. It's a money-making venture. It is not charity work. It's not a service to your country.
Okay.
It's a business. They are in there to make money.
Even if you are GFA boss, it is not service to your country.
It is not service to your country.
Okay.
It is not service to your country. You're in there to make money. You will make money for the FA, for the clubs. Keto Kreku's manifesto is titled what?
Making wealth for all, I think.
Creating wealth for
all, yeah.
That's basically what football is. Right now, it's creating wealth for all. What you need to focus on is, how do you ensure that people are actually making money genuinely and not trying to cheat their way through the system? It requires an attitudinal change. And I think that it's conscientizing the people should be at the root of the efforts to rid the association of corruption. Because all of in the past, see, the issue has been how the FA has always been corrupt or perceived to be corrupt, whatever. It's always been the way they handle sponsorship. Sponsorship money. It's the way they've handled transfer fees. It's the way they've handled friendly matches with regard to the national teams.
Yeah, organizing of
it's the way players get invited into the national teams. And we've all heard the stories about players accusing certain coaches of trying to take money, or agents influencing the selection process of national team players. So all of these things require people to be honest. So I think they need to talk about how they can get everybody else conscientized to know that if you're in this to make money, make sure you're in it to make the money genuinely.
So you feel that they didn't handle that question well?
I wasn't impressed. I thought everything was rehearsed. It was repeated. It's just...
Jerome, your take on that, and also what you make of the exchange between George Nkrumah Mensah and Nanaya Wamponsa on getting sponsorship and you getting a commission and all of that.
I think George Nkrumah Mensah came close to taking on an issue which for me relates to corruption.
Okay.
Age cheating.
Okay.
It is something we have taken for granted in our football. And I get sad how we blatantly fake ages of footballers at the national level, take them to the international level, and when things don't go well, we come back pretending as if we don't know why these boys play and really do not do anything a couple of years on. George Nkrumah Mensah took on that issue so well, in my opinion, that we need to link football to education. All of us here have been to school.
Yes.
If you start school from KG, in fact, now you will have to produce your child's birth certificate and even the weighing cards and all those things. You cannot fake those things.
Okay.
So if we are linking football to education, even from that level, and he was talking about, I think from age 8 or so, you are sure that we are going to have right ages. And that, in some way, will impact on juvenile football. how we nurture them, how they grow in the game. And by the time they are 17, you truly know that, no, these guys are truly 17. Not the 25-year-olds and the 30s that we parade as under 17s. Then Nanayao. And I think it is one thing perhaps we have not seriously looked at. Nanayao mentioned refereeing.
Yes.
It was a major part of number 12.
Yes.
90 or so % of our referees were caught neck deep in the pit of corruption. Nanaya talked about the size of referees we are using for Premier League matches, which I also think is way too much.
We've got more referees than matches.
It doesn't make sense. What you do is to create an avenue for them to do anything they want. And we saw it in number 12, where referees were sitting and planning matches and even how to give yellow cards to players to weaken teams so that those who have paid them will win matches. I was happy he said that if he is given power, what he's going to do is to cut the number to, I think, half it by a year or two. And he cited the example of the EPL. The EPL, they're not using more than 20 or 25 referees.
60 referees for 300 and something matches.
And that is something...
has like one-something referees for more matches.
120.
Yeah.
That is something we will have to look at. If we want to check corruption in our game, look, when it comes to coaches supposedly taking money from players and, putting them in their teams, in the national team, it could be something that I cannot even speak to. But when it comes to refereeing, we have seen evidence of referees misbehaving. And there is nothing to say apart from...
You speak about number 12, and viewers on your screen, you see snippets of the Anas documentary. This was before that very popular Hearts versus Kotoko game in Accra that was settled by that penalty. And till today, Samuel Suka's day of...
when you mention Samuel Suka, Jerome Ochre is at the center of it. His headline in the Kotoko Express created a storm of his own the day after.
So we would have to check it. And, it is not just about the referees taking money. It's also about their conduct. Their mindset.
Okay.
In the video, in that number 12 video, we saw a referee who was virtually saying that this is their business, it's something they've done for years.
It was a fixer.
It was.
Such characters need not be part of our game going forward. So in terms of corruption, I think it was Nanaya who came close to really hitting the nail on its head.
Okay.
Fred Papo spoke about openness and those things. And I think Fent dealt with the matter when he said that, look, when it comes to the accounts of the FA, it's always audited.
Yes.
The problem has to do with clubs where in this world, in fact, I have not heard it before, except in Ghana, where home clubs cater for referees going to officiate in their matches. It is something we should check. Yep. If we really want to stem corruption in our game, we would have to stop that practice. And again, I think it was Nanaya who mentioned it.
Yeah.
That practice of having clubs taking care of referees ahead of their matches should be stopped.
It has to be stopped.
It is something that we don't have to even entertain it. Because see, I'm human. If I am taken to a game, say in Brekum, and it is a Kotoko game, I'm a Kotoko person.
Yeah.
Brekum, Chelsea have taken so good, so well of me. They're taking good care of me, giving me a place to sleep, giving me money and all that. Even if I want to be fair, the mere fact that the night before the game, the home team was the team that took care of me, it would be very difficult for me to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are things that we should not entertain.
Yeah.
I would love to see the new football administration putting in proper measures to check referees and their conduct in our game. If we do not do that, look, we'll have another number 12 and perhaps...
Maybe number 13 or number 14.
Jerome, I actually do think the biggest... I think the biggest problem with referees and why referees are corrupt is money.
The fact that they are not paid on time.
Thank you. Because every year, referees are owed huge sums of money. When you starve a child, you're teaching the child how to steal. We cannot keep owing referees. The referee, how much are referees supposed to earn per game? You give a referee 250 cedis for a match day. And the referee, if the referee is from Kumasi, he has to travel to Tamale and sleep in a hotel on that 250 cedis, feed himself from that money, and then take bus from that money. It's not possible.
You see, Fent, the money we give to them may not be enough, but I don't see the money as a problem. In the video, we saw referees taking 1,000 cedis and still doing things they wanted to do. I think the problem is with the kind of characters we
So you feel that we need to have more people who are trustworthy?
Yes, because and I think Kurt, in one of his manifesto discussions, he made a point about grooming referees from...
Yes, the catch them young policy.
From the teenage. And for me, that could check the problem, because if we cannot trust the people we put in charge of our matches, it will be very difficult to have matches that you would even want to enjoy. I cited this example somewhere, where a Kotoko game against Mediama in Takwa, Michael Ekufu also was injured for 4 minutes on the pitch. The medics were telling the referee that, look, the way the guy is lying down, there's something wrong. For 4 good minutes, the referee allowed the game to proceed or progress or whatever. And the medic said, no, I would have to do... He went onto the pitch. The referee showed him the red card. The good thing was that by the time the player was taken to the hospital, the doctor said, look, if you had delayed a minute, this guy would have died.
Wow.
When the issue came to the FA, the referee was given a 4-match ban. When his inaction could have killed somebody. So it is not only about the money we give them. It is also about the kind of characters we have as referees in the country.
Okay, we'll take a short break. You're still watching The Verdict on Citi TV. We are dissecting last night's presidential debate that took place at the College of Surgeons and Physicians. When we come back, we'll move on to other areas. We'll talk about the Ghana Premier League, national teams, Colts football and women's football. And I'll be going through your comments that have come through on the number 0550-585-832. This is The Verdict on Citi TV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Well, I think that before we even talk about timing, now, our domestic league has not been very exciting because the match day experience, match day weekend arrangement is not there. Now, I think that people come to the stadium not to watch a 90-minute game, but they come, if they will, so that they will have a total experience. And I think that the stadia and the arrangements we have for match days are totally woeful. Now, there is no place even where you can have dedicated merchandising arrangements. People cannot come to Accra Sports Stadium and, for example, seek to have, let's say, a dwarf's shirt. There should be, in fact, I don't see why we must even design our stadium such that the back is blank. Now, we could begin to have even shops at the back of the stadium so that people will come in, buy scarves, buy jerseys, and buy all sorts of sports paraphernalia as part of the experience. Now, secondly, I think that, you know, the match centers have to be made baby and children friendly. Now, if you take your children to the Accra Sports Stadium, for example, and they are bored, there's nowhere that these children can have a let out. And therefore, you as a mother or a father will think twice about taking them, because by the time this match gets on the way, the kids are tired. So I think that even the periods or times when these matches are played are not even the issue, because we have not put in place the structures that would ensure that people come there, they get comfortable, and that they can have a weekend thinking about football.
I think that apart from repositioning of the product offering, it's very clear that we have scheduling challenges. In Ghana, we are so dogmatic about kickoff times. Meanwhile, our product is not as attractive as we see on TV. What we see on TV is a collection of superstars on one platform. Directly, we are in competition. It's important that we have an effective scheduling department who look at playing outside the box.
It's not just an issue of scheduling, it's an issue of regulation as well. If you are in England on Saturdays, you cannot watch live matches at 3 p.m. The law has been there for 20 years and is so there. We need the powers that be to collaborate with us to bring in regulation that will ensure that even if we are kicking off at 3 o'clock, we are not showing other matches.
Welcome back to The Verdict. You heard the aspirants, they're giving their take on the Ghana Premier League. I'll be going through some of your messages that have come through on the number 0550-585-832. Get to us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram, hashtag Citi Sports, hashtag The Verdict. Let me go through this message. Albert Kisi in Santa Maria says, Nanaya Wamponsa stole the debate with his accurate answers. Amanda Clinton was the least impressive from my perspective. Emmanuel Zevo from Hohoi says, thumbs up to the NC for organizing the debate. All the candidates have brilliant ideas. I was impressed with Mr. Amponsa. My money is on him. I wish all the losing candidates could be part of the Exco. Thomas from Nkoko says, I don't have any confidence in these aspirants. Joe from Iron City, the winning aspirants must pass the integrity test on all fronts. Interesting there. Fent and Jerome, we had the thoughts of the guys or the aspirants on the match day experience, the league. Jerome, you are heavily involved in the league. You know this league very well. What's your take on this kick-off time business and making the league attractive? And what did you make of the responses we got and some of the ideas that were proposed?
I think to a large extent they were idealistic.
Okay.
And I would love to see them practicalize some of the ideas they shared.
Like what? Which ones?
Look, the problem with scheduling is not so much about having to move matches. Mm-hmm. The whole thing starts with how the league fixtures are even planned.
Okay.
You guys follow European football very well, perhaps better than I do. When have you ever had league fixtures planned for the season altered or changed because of anything? I mean, like the English national team going to play, say, Armenia. So then we will have to suspend the EPL for, say, a week or for some days so that and
all of that is in the plan already, so you know when your national team plays.
That is what we have not been doing. And I'm saying that we have not been thinking through how we plan league fixtures.
Okay.
It has to start from there.
You didn't think any of the responses addressed that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because they were all talking about kickoff times, the
match day
venues not being
all that.
conducive enough to take families there and all that. Those things are true. But I'm saying that it has to start with the fixtures itself. I have had occasions where I tell my friends that, look, these fixtures, when they are published and we do stories and Haas and Kotoko are going to play on these days, perhaps we should stop. Because once we play 2-3 matches, by the 7th week, the fixtures will be altered. And I'm saying that if you have people planning with our league's fixtures to, for instance, say, okay, in November, Bofakwa will be playing BA United. I think I will be in Sunyani, so I'll make time and go and watch. By the time you get there, the fixture would have been moved. So how do you plan? I would love to see the situation where once the fixtures are done, that will be all. The EPL, as we speak now, will end next year, May or so.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to change it. Unless perhaps some
extraordinary circumstance.
Then the dates will be altered. But nothing is going to change it. Go to the PSL. It will end in May. And they can tell you that 2021, they will give you dates, maybe tentatively, where matches will be played. Here, we can't do that because little thinking go into our planning. Even when we have planned, we still come up with ways of changing it. We've been in a country where league matches have been suspended because we wanted to have funerals. Because churches wanted to have programs at league centers.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you can move league fixtures to, say, Saturday mornings. But if you cannot stick to what you have planned ahead of the season, you will not have fans coming to the stadium.
Friends, the other bit about growing the local league that was mentioned was paying salaries. There was a bit of a debate about keeping players here, transfers there, player acquisition. Your take on the responses you've heard, and how do those responses relate to our current reality in Ghana football?
Yeah, I think that was one area that provided some of the most interesting responses. Yes. Player transfers.
Jonathan Kuma spoke about giving merit payments.
Yeah, he said it's done elsewhere. I don't know where. He's talking about, if a player does well, you pay him a certain merit payment, you give him some contract. It was so
entice him to stay.
He
was saying that he was going to push to let players stay in Ghana for 2 years.
He can't do that. Listen, I think in that area as well, that's Nana Amponsa impressed me when he said that the whole issue of player exodus in Ghana is overblown. That we don't have players leaving Ghana the way we think players are leaving Ghana.
Okay.
It says...
But aren't players leaving Ghana?
Players are leaving Ghana. And this player exodus thing, I asked a question earlier this morning. Because everybody says, let's pay them well, let's keep them in the country. We pay them well, we keep them in the country. And I asked a very interesting question today on a WhatsApp platform. I said, if you give a certain player, let's say Dreams FC can pay Nathan Quao $5,000 a month net salary to play and stay in the Ghana Premier League. Sounds like good money. Now, if that player is offered the same salary by, let's say, a club in Spain, Villarreal, $5,000 a month net salary, play for Villarreal in La Liga, what do you think would be the decision of the player?
Okay.
Do you think the player would stay or he would leave?
That's a high chance he would leave. Yeah. I mean, that's
for the same amount of money, he would leave. So it's not necessarily because of salaries that players are leaving. There's so many other things that come into play for a player to leave the country.
Okay.
So those things are what we need to take care of. What other benefits does the player get? What prestige does the player get? What chances does the player get of progressing in his career if he continues to stay at Asante Kotoko? Will he get national team appearances? Because it almost sounds as if in Ghana, if you don't travel outside, you will never get a chance to play for the national team. And it was the case with the Black Stars. Now it's happening even with the junior teams.
Yes.
We saw the under-23 team camp here for 3 weeks ahead of the game against Algeria. Then the moment the foreign-based players were invited here, 90% of all the local players that had been camping here for 3 weeks were dropped ahead of that particular match. That cannot be. So all of these other things need to come into play. They all are factors that players consider before they move abroad. So if we fixate ourselves on money, and we think that giving them a lot of money is what will make them stay, we are deceiving ourselves.
Well, so talking about money, on your screens you have a bit of a graphic we put together. Talking about some of the most expensive transfers that have taken place in Ghana football. Jam, I'm sure you remember the Charles Taylor one.
Yes, I do. I mean,
the controversy that surrounded
very controversial.
I think that is the most contentious transfer of all time anywhere in the world. Yeah. Then there was Alexa Samoa moving from Ashanti Gold to Asante Kotoko. That was big as well. Probably the biggest one we've had is Isaac Chum.
Yeah.
Moving from Heart of Lions to Inter Allies. Anyway.
Mostly because it's recent. Because if you adjust that Charles Taylor and Alexa Samoa
for inflation,
we are
looking at absurd
you're looking at
amounts.
900,000 or so.
And then talking about transfers out of Ghana, these are some of the most expensive. We had Emmanuel Cloutier moving from Bricum Chelsea to Esperance for 1.5 million US dollars. Sheila Iliasu, after the World Cup, went to FC Saturn of Russia, $1.1 million. And Joseph Penso, the most recent one, from Temayuth to Genk. This transfer has landed somebody in trouble.
Nathan, just one small point. Nanaya's argument on transfers, which Fent was talking about, I heard him somewhere. I mean, relative to this same discussion. And I think his point perhaps would have to be played up very well. That we think we are transferring players, but in natural fact, the quality is low. And most of these European guys who want our players come to see the quality and they won't pay anything for it. So we shouldn't think we are really transferring players. Even if we are doing that, we should check where the players are going. And that will tell you that everything we are doing about transfers, perhaps apart from the pencil one you just showed us, all the rest are nothing to write home about. So for him, we would have to look at developing or nurturing the quality well. Trying to get the best before we think of exporting it. Otherwise, we will not progress.
So, and that's why that graphic is important, because Nanaya, that's the point Jerome is making. He says we need to focus on quality transfers and not quantity.
So it's not just about sending the numbers out.
So the ultimate question now is that in the Ghana Premier League, does any of the FA aspirants have a plan? Do we have a plan? Is it possible for us to develop the next $1 million player in the next 3 years?
I think the only person I have heard speak about that is Nanayo.
And I think you can understand where he's coming from. His years of working as an agent or intermediary, he's understood the mechanics.
Because even, let's be honest with ourselves and say that that Joseph Pinso transfer is that high because of the 1 year the 6-month loan he spent in Hungary. That's what shot up his transfer fee. Okay. Other than that, you would have to go all the way back to that Clotet transfer back in 2013.
And even that, they have still not paid the money.
The deal was cancelled because
that issue is still in I think it's at FIFA or somewhere.
Yeah. You know, so then in that case, we would have to go all the way back to Sheila Eliasu for the last time. Sheila, we sold a $1 million player. That is just sad.
It's tough stuff there.
Meanwhile, players are leaving Tunisia for $10 million. Youssef Nsakni, he left Tunisia to go to Qatar for $10 million. Just 2 seasons ago, Ben Sharki, he left for $6 million from the Tunisian league, the Moroccan league as well. So it's, you know, all of these North Africans are selling players for millions of dollars, and we are just here. We can't sell a player for $1 million. No. For the last proper $1 million player that moved straight from Ghana Premier League elsewhere, you have to go to Sheila Eliasu back in 2006. The rest of them, there were some other nitty-gritties involved.
Well, it means that the last time we got a big boy move out of Ghana was 13 years ago. So we have to see.
World Cup on the count.
Yeah. I mean, of course, his value went up because of the World Cup. Anyway, this message from Seretics from Takwa says, I'm enjoying the discussion. Jerome's delivery is great. He's factual with his submissions. I believe we can revive Ghana football. Let's move it on, guys. Just quick thoughts, friends. Let me take your thoughts on Colts football. A lot of the aspirants had very interesting things to say about Colts football and women's football. Maybe you can bunch that together and then, you know, we'll try and wrap things up.
Yeah, beginning with Colts football, I think I like Papse's submission about the fact that Colts football's biggest problem. Of course, I'll mention the fact that infrastructure is key. Yeah. But I think Papo's point about funding ultimately was the biggest point for me, because Colts football, the biggest problem has been money. A lot of the people that do Colts football, usually it's people who are just benevolent and just have interest in football. It's not very well structured. It's just people pumping their individual money into it. So we need to have a proper structure that is run by the FA and with funds to be able to keep it going. And that's where I think if Papo says that it's important to keep a certain percentage of sponsorship money from the Black Stars team and shift it directly into Colts football, I agree with him, because if we have a fixed fund that is dedicated to Colts football, it would ensure that there's constant flow of money to help develop Colts football. And we have to begin with the infrastructure. And I think we've made a mistake over the years by always thinking that it is government's it's only government's responsibility to provide infrastructure. If you, I think 90%
on your screen. This is very common if you go around Ghana.
90% of Colts clubs play on.
To play Colts
this
football.
Is it.
That's
really just an individual gathering kits. So usually the Colts coaches are also even those who can shout and organize. That's it. So you don't have any proper basic football knowledge being instilled in these kids. It's just somebody with an interest, with an ability to organize, bringing them together. So it's important to change that.
All right.
And Ket talked about the fact that we need to go back to the basics and create game centers. And that I thought was an interesting idea, because every time people have organized community gala games, you look at the numbers. So it means that the interest in Colts is there. So if you create centers with proper, and they come to play on pitches like this, and the people who gather around, imagine if that was being done at a proper football center.
Jerome,
I'll just sum up.
Yeah.
Nanaya spoke about pitches, infrastructure for juvenile football. Ket was talking about kits and balls and all that.
Yes.
Papo was talking about funding. George Ankuma was talking about ages. These are all key blocks we have to look at.
And we need to
if we want to take or change the face of juvenile football. Look at the pictures you just showed. If a child, 11, 12 years, is playing on such a pitch, by the time he's 17, 15 years, he will have waist pains.
He cannot of course, he can't develop. Your thoughts on women's football?
I think a lot will have to be done.
And what was said?
Look, a lot of the commentary are all nice. They are all nice. We would just have to get down to work. A lot of the things we've said on women's football are all brilliant. It was only this morning that I learned the last time the Black Queens played in the World Cup was 2003 or so.
Yes, if not been
but I remember that They even went to the World Cup before the guys did. We would have to sit up, get down to what the problem is, and begin to solve it from there. Okay,
guys, just final thoughts. Who impressed you the most? Who do you think flopped on the night?
I think I liked Nana Yao's ideas, but
who do you think flopped?
Amanda Clinton, I expected a lot more from her.
She under-delivered.
Yeah. Well, who do you think? Have said that Amanda's notes failed her.
Okay.
I mean, she had a very beautiful book in her hands to read from. Okay. Unfortunately, the question
it didn't work out. And who impressed you the most?
Kate, Nana Yao were on point. And Papa also did well.
Okay.
Yeah. George Nkuma actually surprised me.
Yeah, I think he walks out of this with his reputation highly enhanced. All right. Thank you very much, Joel Motri. Thank you very much, Fentu Tahiru. And thank you very much out there for taking time out to enjoy the verdict. We've been looking at the GFA presidential debate that happened last night at the College of Surgeons and Physicians, looking at who did what, who said what, their plans for Ghana football. Friday, October 25 is the D-Day. By this time on Friday, we'll know who would be the next FA president for the next 4 years. My name is Nathan Quao. Thank you very much for joining us. We do this some other time. Have a good night.